Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Hi. Good evening to everybody. Good afternoon. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, we shall start with our session. Sorry for the delay. Um, a warm welcome to everybody who just joined the meeting today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. On behalf of Helping Hearts, my name is Ishwari Boga, and I'm going to be your host for today's session. I'd like to bring it to everybody's notice. There has been a small change. The host for today's session was supposed to be Ms. Shreya Haran, but since she is not keeping well, I'm going to be taking over for today. So I'll be the host for today. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Ishwari Bhoga, and I'm pursuing my master's in clinical psychology. And I've acquired 30 hours of training in rational, emotive, and cognitive behavioral therapy from Atha Center for Psychotherapy and Training. Before we begin the webinar, I'd like to introduce our topic and our speakers for today. Today's discussion focuses on impact of media on mental health. And we have with us Ms. Ambika Motwani, who's the founder of Helping Hearts. She's completed her MA in clinical psychology and has 2 years of working experience in the field. She's a visiting faculty at Casey College, Churchgate, teaching MA in psychology since a year. She is a clinical hypnotherapist, graphologist, and graphotherapist. She's also a certified counselor from Heart to Heart. Welcome, Ambika.
Good evening, Ishwari, and thank you for this warm introduction. And
Thank you. Today, Ms. Ayushi Shah. Ms. Ayushi is a freelance journalist based in India. Currently, she is the associate editor at The Floating Magazine, a culture publication. She is also the co-founder of Eco Spotlight, a climate solutions network that focuses on positive stories and green solutions. Her work has been published at BBC India, National Geographic Traveller India, Whiteprint, India's first Braille magazine, among other places. She has also recently completed her master's in multimedia journalism at Newcastle University. Welcome, Ayushi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure's all ours. So, shall we begin, Ambika, with the session today?
yes, you may.
Also, so before we begin, please note that the focus of today's webinar is to spread awareness regarding mental health and not to blame, invalidate, or show insensitivity towards any individual, institution, or society. The audience must also note that they can drop their questions, if any, in the chat box, and Ambika and Ayushi will answer them during the discussion or in the last 15 minutes. So beginning with the session, my first question is to you, Ayushi. That how powerful do you think is media as a medium of broadcasting information in our society?
I think the media has become extremely inevitable. Like it's become this medium in our lives that you just can't ignore at this point. It's everywhere. It's extremely relevant. And there are issues that concern you every single day, whether it's like climate change, or say whatever happened with Sushant Singh Rajput. Like you may be somebody who might get triggered by it. So there is a lot of information that's out there, and media is like an extremely important medium of broadcasting. But now the challenge here is it's everywhere. It's moved beyond newsrooms and switching on the TV to kind of your WhatsApps and your social media. So it's imperative and it's unavoidable, I think.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
yeah.
You wanted to add something else?
So I was just saying that in terms of when it comes to like media and mental health together, again, it's become so important, like I'm a journalist, I have trained formally as well, had experiences at different places. But I feel like that line of how exactly to navigate media as a consumer is also so hard, because you want to be in touch of what is happening because you can't ignore it. And at the same time, you do want to draw lines, when it comes to, okay, hey, this is affecting my mental health. So I feel like there is a lot of, stuff that we will be obviously discussing today, whether it's like frameworks that need to be put in place, or as a consumer, you need to, maybe draw lines on your own if there are no institutional places or deadlines that kind of like in check.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. So as you mentioned, I think it's everywhere and it's so hard to avoid it. And that also in a way answers our questions that it is very powerful. And the question was how powerful it is in
Yeah.
broadcasting information. So yes, I hear you. It's very powerful and it is everywhere. It's so hard to avoid it. Yeah, right. Uh, my next question would be to you, Ambika. What are the positive or negative impacts that this medium can have on our mental health?
So, if you look at the positive impacts, there are many positive impacts, and if we start to name it, since during the pandemic has started, we have become more connected towards each other. Like we are sitting in Mumbai, one is sitting in Pune, other one is sitting in Delhi. So that's how even media and more focused on social media that has brought us closer. So it is one of the positive impact of it. And anything that is happening throughout in any of the country, in any of the cities, like if you take an SSR's example, even SSR's case has been broadcasting worldwide. Everyone is fighting for the case, for his justice. So that way, many people are aware about what's happening throughout the world, as well as connectedness is also there, and we are aware that what's happening and what's not happening. So that is also one of the impact. Thirdly, because of media and again the pandemic, of course, many of us are like sitting at home and not able to do anything. Because of the technologies and the media platforms, we are able to do our work, as well as also uh, many of the creativity or any for instance, if you want to learn dance or yoga or anything, YouTube is a platform wherein we learn. So if we see, the positive impacts are there, but at the same time there are even negative impacts, because media just not only focuses on a particular impact. If we take the case of COVID, they are not uh, media is not broadcasting that there are even recovery rates for COVID, but at the same time they're only focusing on death. So it's not only a positive impact, but it is also, I can't even say a negative, but it's somewhere neutral, because I don't think negative can be a word that can be used over here. But at the same time, it is a neutral platform to broadcast everything, so we are aware of everything. Secondly, if we talk or we go deep into social media, for instance, a person has lost a job, and you go and, for instance, you've just opened your Facebook or Instagram and you've seen this person, other friend of yours has just got a job, that to the desired one and the post that he or she wanted. So that can act as a trigger. Then, and especially with Facebook, people comment on the post. When people start commenting on the post, that's the most obvious post that we are going to encounter again and again. So certain things over here that can trigger us. So in that way, I don't think again a negative impact, but at the same time we'll experience the negative emotions because of that trigger, and that's why we say that it has a negative impact and all of that. So I hope this answers your question, Ishwari.
Yes, yes, it surely does. To summarize for our viewers, you know, there are positive and negative both, as you pointed out. But it some of the things that struck me as a creativity and a lot of things that people want to learn. Like you said, YouTube Pay, there are creative classes available, so everything is easily accessible. And but at the same time, it's easily accessible, it's at the fingertips, our fingertips. And also, but uh, there are triggers and all. I think this is this is one thing that is overlooked, and I don't think most people have realized that it happens and it does affect, and that's one main negative point that that media could have, since Ayushi mentioned that it's everywhere. And then if it's everywhere, everywhere there is something or the other, that something that the person may see on the media, and that it may affect them. So yeah, triggers, that's one very beautiful point that you mentioned, Amika. I really like that point.
And the most important thing is that we cannot even ignore such things. Chalo, theek hai,
Yeah.
for instance, if we feel like theek hai, we can miss this information, but at the same time, it's everywhere. You go
Everywhere,
on Twitter,
yes.
you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, go on LinkedIn, be
Yeah.
it anywhere, even the news channels, the
Yeah.
papers, the online news that comes, it is everywhere. So there's like nowhere you can stop that trigger, or you can not face that particular situation which has triggered you in that way.
Yeah, we don't seem to catch a break from these triggers at all.
Yes.
Yeah, surely. So yeah, so moving on to the next question, Avishi, I'd like to ask you, as you mentioned, it's everywhere, and at some point, since it's everywhere, it's also sort of difficult to draw boundaries, and for people to say, like as you said, ki, this is affecting my mental health. So my question is, since we are constantly exposed, as you also mentioned, through various sources, do you think limiting the exposure can be helpful? If it is, then how can we limit the exposure to media? And yeah, could you please share a few tips? And does it really help?
Right. I think that's a really interesting question, like based on, what Ambika said as well. It's it's not just about you anymore. It's not a point where you switch on the news and you go like, okay, I'm consciously choosing to watch this. You have social media. Like when I think about like the ways we consume news now, and it could be something as simple as like your cousin getting pregnant, to some kind of like somebody realizing suddenly like SSR is like has committed suicide, to kind of like, oh, corona cases are on a high, to even fake news, which again
Yeah.
is a very, very triggering thing, where you suddenly have somebody on your WhatsApp group saying, oh, it's verified by a doctor that if you have boiling hot water, you're going to be fine, and corona is not going to. And yes, when you sort of take the time, you do process the news, and then you can say, okay, this works and this doesn't. But that's the thing about triggers, and that's the thing about breaking news, right? We live in an era where everything is breaking news. So when it comes to our sources of news, before we talk about like how we can limit them, you have your social media. Even in social media, you have like the apps you consciously use, and then you have your friends, like Ambika said, kind of commenting on whatever you're saying or doing, etc. And you might have a friend who may have a very, very extreme view, who says, okay, Donald Trump is great, when it comes to like something like abortion rights. So that also, I believe in my own opinion, is a form of kind of like consumption of like opinions and news. And so that is very hard to trigger. WhatsApp has become like during this whole case, like it was like the CBI was on WhatsApp. I had my mother telling me, I know Ria has killed Shashank. So for somebody
Oh
who is
God.
depressed, yeah, it's hilarious, but also for somebody who is depressed, to constantly kind of have these suicide warnings without, like, suicide conversations around like suicide or somebody committing suicide without a trigger
Yeah.
warning
Yeah.
becomes very, very difficult to navigate, especially if they're having like a low day, and
Yeah.
even on Instagram, your source of news now no longer is, okay, this is like, I'm going to consume my art content here, and I am going to consume like my friends' content here, and I'm going to consume the news here. I'm following The Wire, I'm following, say, like the BBC, and at the same time, I'm following like a friend. So I have news like, hey, this friend got engaged, and the second thing is, oh my God, there's an explosion in Beirut. So how do you then process all this information, right? So I think one of the things, when we talk about limiting this exposure, is to take conscious decisions when you're consuming this news. Am I in the state after a really long day? And we all doom scroll. And this is a very interesting term that, we've sort of like come across, that you just on for hours without realizing what you're looking for, till something really shakes you up. And that usually that shake up is like something really bad, and that's how you go to sleep. So I feel like I try not to be on Twitter really late at night. Like this is like a personal thing, because I know the kind of conversations I follow there.
are very hard hitting. So even if I am, we're all people, so we are going to end up like doom scrolling or kind of, I don't know, having like a random whatever Facebook thing where you're just on for like half an hour. So I try then to follow the right things on Facebook. I've consciously made a choice to kind of follow writers, journalists. I don't follow news organizations like Aaj Tak Se. And this is not to say this is bad or this is good, but it's just about understanding this news format of very, very sensational stuff doesn't suit me as a person and doesn't work for me. Something like The Wire, which has a mellower tone, works for me. So I try to limit the kind of very, very consciously kind of pick onto that. At the same time, when we talk about like YouTube, okay, and Twitter, they have algorithm issues. Like as of late, like if you have any extreme comment or opinion, it kind of tends to go off to the top. And this is obviously not, I don't think there's like an official study on this, but a lot of people have noticed these observations. Like there is some extreme content, some beheading, something happening that always kind of gets pushed because that gets more traction, right? You're more likely to react to it. So again, kind of like understanding the fact that the algorithm may not always be in your favor, and keeping that in mind, when you're feeling low or when you're not in the mood to consume news. Another way of kind of limiting that is also setting some time aside for, say, once a week, kind of, okay, this is the only time I'm going to look at like corona deaths, because you've got to know about it. You can't live under a rock, anymore. So it just, somebody's just saying, extreme content stays in the subconscious mind. And that's so true, like something I feel like, okay, I'm in the space to kind of listen to like some very, very intense podcast about like a true crime or any news related stuff. And then like late at night, I'll just be like on and it'll stay in my head. So again, like I try to really like have these set formulas. Okay, I'm going to look at the death cases for corona right now and then not look for another week, because I have the privilege of not looking at it at this stage. So that's another thing that I try to keep in mind while, and I try to switch off like notifications. You have these apps, you have the BBC app, and I feel like the BBC still does like a better job, because it only when the news is really breaking do you get a notification. On some apps you just have like 10 notifications a day of what is happening, and again that is overconsumption of news. You got to know, you got to stay on top of things, but not 24/7. So that's I hope that kind of answers the question.
It does. And Aishi, you've mentioned out so many good points here that I'd like to repeat. You said something about, at when you're on Instagram, at one point there is some news about your family, and the next thing you see there is an explosion in Beirut. And I think this point, I don't think that most of the people who use social media understand that, you are constantly exposed to such a vast array of information, different information, which are like different from like poles apart information. One might be happy and the other might be, as you said, explosion in Beirut. And it's just, you are processing it, you are taking it. Even if you're just reading, I don't think most people understand that it can have effects on you, because it is that drastic. So I think that's a really good point that you mentioned. And also about the tips, I'd like to summarize for our viewers that, what Aishi said, that maybe what we can do is limit our sources from where we gather this information. Like, you can limit the kind of pages you follow, the kind of hashtags you follow, or whatever the kind of channels you follow. There you can make some changes. You can set time, as Aishi said, that if you're going to check for the information once a week, then that's it. Again, you have the privilege not to check it. That's another great point that Aishi mentioned, that most of the people forget. They're just like, if it's there, they just take it. But, I think it's important for us to stop and realize that, hey, we do have a choice to not look at all those informations coming. And switching off notifications is also another great way to limit exposure. And I think these were some really great points, Ayushi. Thank you for mentioning all these.
I'm glad they helped.
There is a point mentioned in the chat box that says overconsumption is really bad for health. So yes, it is true. We are considering mind and body as two parts which are really really equal. So yeah, if something is bad for our health, it's even bad for our mental health. So we really need
Mental
to
health.
understand that.
And this person sort of gave me it was like, yeah, the next question is the same, that Ambika, how
Yeah.
is how is this how does this affect our mental health? How can limiting exposure, the Ayushi mentioned about the tips how to, but if once we do that, what good does it to our mental health, or what effect does it have on our mental health?
So, firstly, if we are really, really willing to limit, then I think it's a good option to go ahead with this idea, because I have known many people who do say that my exams are nearing and I need to distract myself from a lot of social media apps or even news apps, that by the way. So what they do is they will delete their apps, they will delete Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, and everything. And after 15-20 minutes or half an hour, they will call and they will say, since I have deleted, but I still feel like, what might be happening over Facebook. Since I've changed my profile picture, has this particular person still commented on my picture? Has this person liked my picture and all of that? So these things keep on happening. So if we feel that, from within, that we are really really strong enough to limit that it's bothering my mental health over these ways, I think then it's a good idea that we should go ahead with that and limit, and we can use the tips that Ayushi gave us, like no stopping the notifications or stop following certain pages, that way. And if yeah, so I think it's if we, at the end, I would like to conclude that if we have the strong will of uh, stopping or deleting the apps which are disturbing our mental health, we are good to go. And at the same time, we are not even looking at the aspects of what these things are doing to us. We have deleted the apps because they are distracting to us, but at the same time we are preoccupied with those thoughts, we are distressed, and at the same time thinking about that is adding to our distress. So we are not looking anywhere that how it is affecting our mental health that way. So it is very very important to have the strong mindset of limiting the social media apps or the news apps in any ways which we feel are disturbing to us. I hope
Yeah,
this has answered your question.
sure, it does. It does. And I guess we just do not realize, since it's constantly there, it's everywhere. We just don't realize the extent of effect that it can have on our as simple as thoughts. We are, as you mentioned, Nabika, we are preoccupied with it. Even if we've turned it off, our mind is still there. What is happening? Did I get more likes? Did I get more comments? And it's just, this is on on our mind all the time, 24/7. There is just no break. So yeah, that's the kind of effect that it has on our mental health. And so moving on, thank you for answering, Amika. And moving on, so when it comes to media exclusive of social media platforms, we don't really have a control on what kind of information. So as Ayushi said, with social media, we have we have the option to stop the notifications, or uh, choose what kind of channels or pages we are going to follow and all that. But with respect to other media, we don't really have that option. We don't have an option on what kind of information we wish to consume, and what we don't, for the absence of. So how does that affect the society and its mental well-being? So for example, like news channels and all, so where people don't have an option to choose what kind of information they want to consume, how does that affect the society and the mental well-being? Sorry, this question is for Ambika. I forgot to mention, this question is for Ambika.
Okay, so see, the thing is that how is limiting going to help us for our mental health?
No, the question was that how, uh, like where we don't have a choice to choose what kind of information we are consuming. So like news channels or whatever information we are consuming from news channels, it's unfiltered and you do not have the choice,
Yeah.
you know. So how does that affect the society and what and it's, you know, mental well-being of a society?
Yeah. So for that, if we have made a schedule for our own self, that at this time we wake up and we do this and we do that and we indulge in different activities, what we can do is we can gradually decrease the time of having a look at our social media apps or even the news apps or news channels by that time. So if we directly just think of just let go of and we indulge ourselves into other work, it is obviously going to add certain distress to our own thoughts also at that point of time. So in my personal opinion, if we start decreasing the time of for instance, I think it's fair enough to use this particular time that we go on Instagram and it's 2 hours and then we realize, oh my god, 2 घंटे हो गए. Then we realize that, oh, we need to even do other work. So if we start decreasing the time from 2 hours to 1 hour and then gradually half an hour, then it seems a little impossible, but we can try doing that. So if we start decreasing the time and indulge that other half an hour or an hour which we have deducted from our Instagram, and we can start giving it to a particular hobby wherein we are either dancing or we are either cooking or we are singing or doing yoga or any other thing which is balancing our homeostasis level in that way. So like YouTube is there, we can watch certain other videos wherein we know that we are going to benefit something from that.
Yeah.
So that will also help us in balancing our emotions and regulate our mental health, because we are kind of relaxing. Anything that we are doing which we enjoy doing a lot, it's a form of meditation. It's not only meditation, but it's a small form of it.
Yeah.
So whenever we are doing that, we are kind of relaxed, and we can even have a little more insight about what other things that we can do.
Yeah.
So that's how we can start limiting the use of it and start thinking about what else we can do instead of that putting that half an hour or 1 hour on binge watching Netflix or overusing Instagram or Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah,
I
sure,
hope that
sure.
has answered
Yes,
your question.
yes, it does. So instead, simple points, just if it's not helping you, just switch. And there are so many other things that you can do instead. Knowing that and being aware that you have options is enough for you to, you know, and like, you know, as you mentioned that maybe I'd like to, yeah. So if I may, I may add some points. So if the question was that, you know, when it comes to news channels, we don't have an option basically if we what kind of information we want to choose. So like Ayushi said that even I think even then you have an option, just switch off the TV. If whatever the news channels are showing you is not helping you, or if you do not want to consume that information, or if it's triggering or if it's disturbing, you can just switch off. And any which ways, we now have the option of accessing information or accessing news on our phones or through so many websites, through so many apps. We have news channel apps, we have apps of, I guess, Times of India and all those apps we can access those information from there. If whatever information that is being displayed on the news channel is not helping us, and as you mentioned that if it's disturbing or in any way, we can always switch from the serious things and to more lighter stuff, you know, like things that you like, Ambika. You said we can use YouTube and we can, you know. So yeah, that does answer the question. Thank you, Ambika.
Also, I wanted to add, like as you said, that the certain news are very disturbing. And at the same time, I even feel that media is again, not to blame any particular field that way, but this is what I've observed. Generally, media has only, if you see even in the SSR's case, they have only showed about the other angles of the investigation. But what about the depression? What about the suicide? What he was going through? They have never not tapped on it, and only that particular incident about what in personal life he was going through and all of that, all of that was, you know, pulled so much that it started affecting the other people. In fact, there are many people who got in touch with me because a particular SSR secretary used to stay in my area, and they, to such an extent that they asked me, "Ki, do you really think ऐसा होता है?" And I was like, what kind of the thing that media has portrayed so much. So again, in certain ways, it can be disturbing. For me, it was very disturbing to know that people are much more interested in knowing what happened to the secretary rather than uh, being interested to know what was happening with SSR in his personal life when it comes to mental health.
Yeah, so sad.
Yeah, indeed.
So moving on to the next question. Uh, to Ambika, to what extent do you think Indian media is sensitive to mental health of the society? And it's at the perfect timing that I've asked this. You said that you just mentioned that, you know, with SSR's case, that people are more interested in the context and not interested in what actually happened or what actually led to. So, to what extent do you think is Indian media sensitive to mental health in our country?
Again, I'm not trying to blame media in that way, but this is what we have seen throughout. And even through Bollywood, many of the movies have been portrayed that mental illness is something which is still a taboo. For instance, if the person has been diagnosed with schizophrenia or any particular psychotic disorder in that way, they have been shown as not to be treated as equal. So for me, that is very very disturbing, that why are we treating a person who is already suffering from a disorder, and at the same time by treating them that way we are adding on to the distress. So for me it is very very disturbing, and to certain extent I feel if even if Bollywood and all are making certain movies, they should even show that how these cases can be handled rather than showing that we should just ignore them or we should treat them in certain ways so that, you know, we are not getting in touch with people who are suffering from disorders. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, I feel media is not sensitive in portraying the content of mental health in that way.
Yes, true,
And
true.
even there are
That's
many other
excellent. Yeah.
instances, even certain therapies. For instance, we take clinical hypnosis, or in layman's term we say hypnotherapy. Just say this particular word hypnotherapy and look at people's reactions because of the media portraying that, you know, if you're using hypnotherapy, you are in someone's control that way. But if
They
you
often
actually
associate
yeah,
hypnotherapy with black magic.
yes, yes,
To a large
all
extent, they do, right?
yes, they do. And all thanks to media and Bollywood movies, which has portrayed so much. I mean, not media, but generally Bollywood, because yeah, it's a
Yeah, yeah.
form of entertainment media. So rather than just showing anything, they should at least do some research and, you know, portray something like that. Because at the end, it becomes very, very intense and associate that with black magic. And if you just say this particular word that I'm a hypnotherapist and look at people's reaction, how are they going to react as if it's the end of the world, and you know, now
Or
I'm
you're
going to
going
get
to
in
do
control with this.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're going to like do that pendulum thing and get them
yeah.
in.
And we don't realize that the pendulum gazing is a altogether different thing, as well as hypnotherapy is altogether a different thing, which is used for resolving issues which are not being dealt with, or we have not touched upon those issues. So if
Consciously.
we understand that it's a different thing altogether, and people have associated that with a different thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I really feel it should have been a little more sensitive when it comes to mental health.
Yeah, I guess you
Ayushi, what
rightly
are your
mentioned
views
is the
on this?
yeah,
Sorry.
I'd love to. Yeah, no, it's okay. Actually, I have a different question for Ayushi, but before that, Ambika, you mentioned the portrayal needs to be worked on, and I think that's an excellent
Yeah.
point. That they are not sensitive to the portrayal of. They are. I mean, you know, all of us are aware that in the recent times, so much of mental health talk and mental health awareness is being talked about, and there are so many posts and everything happened, but the portrayal needs to be worked upon. From this, I guess, Ayushi, my question, I have an interesting question for you, is that uh, the same that, recent in the recent times, and okay, especially since SSR's death, there has been a lot of talk on how mental health is important, how people are coming up with and it has become a joke also, that people say that only up till that point when the news was hot, people were talking about, they were posting stories, oh, I'm here for you and you can talk to me and all that. What are your views about that? Do you think that um, is the whatever the talks are happening, or in the recent times, the awareness is was that the appropriate awareness, or just the topic of mental health coming on Instagram or social media everywhere, was that appropriately displayed or put across? What are your views on this?
So as you know, somebody who has kind of like I think all of us have been very, very deeply involved in this case, whether we wanted to or not. We had friends talking about it, we had our families talking about it, we had the same conversations on like WhatsApp groups, which is something I place a lot of emphasis on, because I feel like with WhatsApp there is no need for credibility, which I find very alarming. And that again leads to a lot of like issues around anxiety, no lack of triggers, kind of like fake news, a lot of like other issues. But kind of coming back to your question, I do think that the media should and could have been more sensitive when it comes to approaching the issue of mental health, especially since every few years, for example, with the rape case that happened in Delhi a few years ago, suddenly rape and women and Delhi had become like an important conversation in India, and you suddenly get everybody talking about Nirbhaya and we need a safer country. And I think something similar happened with mental health, after like the whole case, Shrang Singh Rajput. You had mental health as a concept come in like everybody's like mouth, whether but sometimes for the first time, including like some family members of mine who would otherwise, like Amika said, like you said, be a little more taboo about the issue. So I'm not saying it
Yeah,
was the right way to start the conversation, but
exactly.
ultimately a conversation was started nevertheless. And
Yeah.
now I think it's up to us how we take this conversation ahead. Yes, there were times, where suddenly everybody was just like, here, I am here for you. And then putting up these helplines. And I personally don't know how much each person meant it, because again, it's social media. It could be, maybe like a person must have had genuine 100%. So I feel like whenever something new is kind of thrown at us, we swing like pendulums. And kind of in this case, we went from having no mental health information to suddenly being like, I'm here for you, And I feel like gradually we will find that balance and we will find the right spot, to have the conversation. Because practically speaking, even if I were to put that status up, I don't think I'd always be in the place to have a
Be there.
conversation.
Yes.
And the minute
Yes.
I put it out to like 2,000 people on my Facebook, if one or two reach out to me that who I don't know very well, then I'm in that tough spot. Hey, I want to help, but I don't know how to because I'm not in the
Exactly.
space. So
Yes.
I feel like there are ways to have a more mature, a more sensitive, a more realistic conversation around mental health. I'm glad the conversation has started. I mean, the case has been flung left and right because of politics, because of kind of like 10 other agendas. But hey, it's now a term everyone's talking about. So there has been some silver lining that has come out of it. So the way we take it ahead is on us. And
Is up to
I
us.
don't
Yeah.
know if I should elaborate on this, so you can like let me know. But I also feel like, now we're consumers of news, but we're also creators of news. So on one side where it's interesting, say for example, this whole mental health conversation, and again, I think this applies to like every single thing. On one hand, you are consuming this, but on the other hand, you're also propagating a reality. Every time you share something, every time you forward something, every time you comment on something. So I think there is equal responsibility on us to make sure we're not triggering somebody, like on social media, you now have like if you're following the right people, like I am sort of following more people now, become very conscious of who I'm following, who I'm friends with, etc. They have these small things like, let's say, trigger warning, suicide, rape,
Yeah.
violence. And I feel like that also makes a lot of difference, because then it's like choose your own kind of thing, yeah, do I want to delve into this or do I not want to delve into this? So I think something like that is also happening with mental health, where we have almost become news creators ourselves. Even if it's a small message saying, I'm here for you, hey, talk to me, or these are the suicide helplines, suddenly you got everybody copy pasting that information, and there is no real way to kind of know the tangible impact of these statuses. But I'm sure it must have helped somebody somewhere open up a little more, have that conversation. So I'm yeah, that's I have like a mixed bag, opinion on this one.
No, but thank you for giving us your insights. And I think that, there is a difference. If am I adding a point here? There's a difference between having that um, uh, 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 the intention to help somebody. There is a difference between having the intention, it's a good thing, wanting to help somebody, and being equipped with resources in order to help them. There is a
Yeah.
huge difference, and I don't think people understand that with mental health. You saying that you'd be there for them is going to be different than actually you in reality being there for them, because you need the emotional bandwidth to listen to them. You need your own mental stability to be able to detach yourself from what they are telling you, and be okay and be in a position to be detached and help the person. I don't think that people who were posting about all these things, that I'm there for you and all that, understand that this difference. So I think you sort of in some way did tell us that there is a difference, and it should be looked at a little more sensitively. And yes, you are right, it is upon us on how we take ahead from here. So thank you for that insight,
I
Ayushi.
love what you said about like the emotional bandwidth,
Yeah.
of like a person, because I don't think people realize what they're signing up for, which
Yes.
their intentions are amazing, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
it's just you don't know till you're there, doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
I would like to
So
add up. Um,
sure, Ambika.
Yeah. So as people started posting about I'm here for you, come and talk to me and all of that after the entire case happened, why aren't we so open for people who are actually suffering from something, and we direct them to a professional rather than we posting it on our Facebook wall that I'm here for you, I'll be there for you and all of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even if chalo, you are doing it, it might be just copying of status for someone and putting it, and at the same time people don't understand the content and the intensity about what the person is trying to speak. Even if chalo we understand, but who has given us those credentials to help
Yes.
this person out? We should rather than direct that person to a professional who will help them, rather than we putting the status as I'll be there for you, I am here for you and all of that. I think if society has opened up so much, why not open up about being okay to go to a mental health professional or a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor, anyone. That's it.
Is it just me, or can I not see Ishwari as well?
Yeah, I think
She's probably gonna
her
yeah,
screen
come
has
in a
frozen. Yeah.
seconds. Yeah.
I am sorry. My
No,
net.
It's
it's
okay.
Yes,
Net
Ambika, you
issue.
were saying something.
I was saying that rather than me putting up stories and statuses that I'm here for you and I'll be there for you and all of that, why not we become more open to the entire idea of helping people to reach out mental health professionals? Because I think at the end that is going to benefit people, not general public listening to each other and chalo, now I've expressed what I want to do and now I'm fine. How can you be fine if something was distressing to you and just by talking to a person helped you in that way? I mean, it's good that if there is a person like that, but at the same time, if there is something that has triggered you, it's only going to trigger you again and again. It has not resolved. So better reach out for a professional that way.
Yeah, true. Yeah, again, a great point that, even redirecting them towards the professional resources is another way that you can uh, help them effectively and in the
Break the
right
stigma
manner.
of mental health.
Yes, yes, true. That's true.
yeah.
That's again a great point, Amika. Okay, moving on. Another question is the same, that how do you think we as consumers can take care of our mental health and still be well updated with the world affairs? So, Ayushi, there's this term that has been going around, social media detox.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that uh, how does that work? Does it work? And and if we are doing what is called as a detox, how can we be how can we do that, and as well as stay updated with with all the information? And this question is to both of you.
Yeah. So do you want to start, Ambika, or should I?
You start.
Okay. So I feel like two parts of your question, right? So I do think like I do that myself, like I do go on like media detoxes and social media. Like I do news detox. I'm just like, I am not in the space to kind of listen to anything negative. And it sounds really cheesy, but like I watch a lot of feel good movies for like a while. That's just me then, because I really need to balance out like that zone of life, or that state of life that I'm in. So kind of just again backtracking a little bit, the entire idea of news is to add some kind of value to your life, because if it was irrelevant you wouldn't have to know about it. But there's probably a reason it is news and it's newsworthy and kind of it's important for you to know. But I feel like the problem is overconsumption and overproduction of news. So you have like Arnab, again, this is not to offend him, like there might be people who like him, but every night going on like the nation wants to know. But there is a limit on what the nation wants to know and what the nation needs to know. And that's kind of the line
Yes.
we as consumers need to navigate, like, hey, what is this? And again, this is just to the resources that kind of help me. I follow Faye D'Souza on Instagram, I follow The Wire, I follow the BBC, and it's still enough for me to know everything I need to know, and obviously for the things that are not there is Google. So I mean, there is nothing you can't find out if you want to, but subconsciously kind of the things that influence you have to be very very careful about that, in terms of to take care of our own mental health and be updated on world affairs. I think another thing is boundaries, and whether it's with friends as well, who might have extremely different opinions, and family members or relatives, which again might be a trigger, like you might have an orthodox family member say that isne kya pehna tha ki, she got raped or whatever, or girls need to be more careful. And maybe you're not in the state to kind of take that then, so setting boundaries that, hey, we're here for dinner, I don't agree with you, and I may not even like respect the point of view you're coming from, but I don't want to talk about this, I'm not going to talk to you about this on WhatsApp. Kind of like getting into the right groups, muting the groups where there's like a lot of conversation around like conversations you don't want to be a part of, happening. So I think that is kind of one. And another thing is focus on the good. And that's kind of something that I've realized a lot lately, where there is bad, there is good. Like where you have like, Ambika, you said, like you have like all these people dying of COVID, which is terrible and really, really sad. You have people healing and recovering and sharing their stories. And like, again, this is also like Humans of New York, I try and follow them very actively on Instagram because they're stories of real people doing real things and like kind of making it through the hard days. And I feel like it's important for news channels and news mediums to remind you of that as well, that where there is bad, there is good. And another kind of thing around that is with like climate change, which is why I started Eco Spotlight. But again, that's kind of another answer or another story. So focusing on the good, I'd say, to sum it up, setting boundaries with friends, family, relatives, anybody over what, when, and how you want to consume the news. And thirdly, understanding what the news does to you and then deciding what you want to consume based on that, what you need to know versus what people want you to know. I think these are the three things I'd say that can be kind of done to balance mental health with world affairs. And uh, at the same time, kind of like these news detoxes, I do think they work because it's important to have an equilibrium before you kind of try and venture out into the world with and gain more information or consume more information. So I do think it works if you do it right.
Okay, and Ayushi, we will come to the Eco Spotlight because we want to know about that. But before that, Ambika, yes, please, would you answer?
Yeah, as I even mentioned about it earlier, that if we are comfortable and we are willing to, limit these resources, and bus, I just don't want to get more into these apps or news and everything. We can just limit that, and at the same time, it's not that we are going to miss out on really important information. When we come back again, yes, we can have a look at it, like, okay, now this has happened, that has happened, and all of that. And as you, Ayushi, I really loved the way she said about Arnab, that nation wants to know how much nation needs to know should be covered. So there, most of the times, um, if something has happened, and the rape wala thing is most used while having these conversations, so we don't understand, but unintentionally all these things to provoke aggression within us. It might be to any gender, it's irrespective of genders, by the way, but it does provoke certain kind of aggression towards it. So we really need to understand about how intense the content has been portrayed, and at the same time, is there any particular emotion that is triggering to us? We need to have a check on that. So if we are doing these things and we are even checking on our emotions and our triggers, I think we are good to go for that.
Right, right. Thank you, you both, for answering that question. And quickly, we are in 15 minutes, we'll be ending. So I'll just like to remind all our viewers that if you have any questions, now would be the right time to start posting on the chat box so that Ayushi and Amika both will address them. After answering this last question, Ayushi, we would love to know about your journey till here and what inspired Eco Spotlight.
Thanks for the question, by the way. It's always
You're
fun talking
welcome.
about something you built. Now, I'm going to try and not self-promote, to be honest. But I think, so last year I was doing my MA. So I've had like news experiences before. I did internships at the BBC and then Nat Geo magazine, the Traveler magazine, and kind of like navigated freelancing a little bit. Did a lot of freelancing for different publications and started a podcast last year on climate change, only to realize that the more we spoke about it, the worse it got for us. Instead of making it more hopeful for us, we were getting increasingly hopeless because we were exposed to more information than other people, because we were researching kind of like, okay, what is this, what is happening with, say, the fires in Australia, or what is happening in India, why are we having so many flash floods? And it just got horrible. And we decided to take a step back and say, hey, so much is going wrong. are we seriously telling ourselves that nothing is going right? And that's when we decided to launch Eco Spotlight, which basically is a news website where we talk about people, organizations, and companies that are doing good things for the planet. And the entire idea is, if there is no hope, there is no future. And that's kind of what we do now. We interview people, and I'm not kidding, the more I've met people whose apps have saved like 4 million meals, in a few years, and like
Wow.
met people who are like MIT, Harvard fellows, and are spending their lives kind of navigating this climate conversation, and people who built like credit cards with set like a carbon emission limit, and so that it's, instead of money, you have like a carbon limit. So, and people working towards fast fashion, oh my god, like, and suddenly I'm like in this whole new world where I am so hopeful. We might still all die of like climate change, but at least it's going to be like a nicer journey for me, is what I think. So I exactly, it comes back to kind of media and mental health and everything that we've spoken about, right? There is good, and we got to focus on the good news, because good news is also news. So that's kind of the story behind Eco Spotlight, and you can check it out if you want to sort of have like these nice uplifting stories of hope for the planet.
Thank you so much. That sounds so interesting and so lovely. Thank you for describing it to us, and I'm sure all our viewers will check it out. Yes. And okay, I don't think there are any questions, but I'd like to ask one question to both of you. Uh, since I mean, this is what something that I am taking away, that it is. I don't think people realize. Just there is no realization of the kind of information that we are consuming on social media and the kind of effect it is having on us. So for me, I realized that, oh my god, okay, when you said that point, Ayushi, that one moment I'm checking something out about a good news from my family, and the next moment there is something happening somewhere which is devastating. So how I think it'll sound silly, but how do we make people realize, or how can one realize the kind of effect that social media is having on us, or the kind of effect it's having on our mental health, the thoughts, and the fact that we are, even if we switch off, like Ambika said, even if we switch off, and even if we uh, go offline, it's still there in our mind. So how do we make ourselves realize that it is having a serious effect on us? Both of you are open to answer.
Yeah. Oh, Amila, you should take that first, and then I'll just collect my thoughts till kind of then.
So I think, yeah, at the end, all the answers are somewhere overlapping, because at the end we need to balance ourselves. If
Yeah.
we feel that this particular information is too intense for me to take, why do we even go take such a intense step of reading the entire article or something which has been published about, or has just been uh, just because it is there and we need to be updated so that we can have a gossip about it. It's really wrong, because we don't know that it takes a really good toll on our mental health that way. And
Mm.
opposite, we don't even try to reach out to a professional, and we think that time will heal everything, ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega, but it's not that way. So, and yes, and social media does play a very important role in bombarding of emotions. As when Aishi spoke about at one app we are reading that's how it's a good news, and the other end we are reading that this has happened and that has happened. And most importantly, what I realized over here is that we always connect news to a very negative way. Like if we see, "Arey, तुमने ये news सुना? क्या हुआ?" And generally, it's a negative or a bad news that way. So we have kind of associated that, and again, even these associations kind of have an impact on our mental health. So
Mhm.
if generally we are still happy that way, like now we come to know that there is some news which is going to be published, or for instance, not to uh, okay, if we take it as Man Ki Baat by our PM, respected PM, people do get anxious. Arey bhai, abhi now what sir will do. So that way we have associated a lot of things negatively. So why do we associate? First of all, we need to actually focus on what content the particular news or the particular Man Ki Baat is directed towards, and then we can make assumptions, and whatever we feel it's okay. But at the end, firstly association is making really wrong, and it is somewhere uh, making us lose the content and the intensity of what the person might be talking about. And at the same time, taking care of our mental health, please do whatever we feel like doing it, as in develop a hobby or stick to a particular schedule. And because of the pandemic, we have a lot of time to focus on each and every aspect. So why not focus on that, and rather than focusing on what this particular news channel has to say or what particular Man Ki Baat has been broadcasting. I think that answers your question.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ambika. Aishi, would you like to go?
Yeah, I do think so. When we talk about mental, sorry, is it very noisy? Just
No,
just
no,
let me
you're
know.
good.
Okay, cool. So I think for me, as not just a journalist, but also at the same time, somebody who's consuming news, I always kind of, I notice I'm in a bad mood, after. Like it sounds very spiritual, I don't know. But it's almost like my body is angry and I don't know why. After like 2 hours of like Twitter at night, maybe it feels like a complete like waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just on for hours. And B, I don't realize, but it's like a little bank where I'm constantly collecting negative news. And then suddenly, after like I leave the bank, I'm like, what just happened? Why am I so worked up, all of a sudden? So I think our bodies and our minds are very powerful. And I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but that's what I think. And they're constantly telling us, that something is wrong when something is wrong.
Yes,
So kind of, I think
yes,
paying attention to that might help somebody understand whether their consumption of social media is ideal or not. Like, it's a very simple example, but I no longer follow like influencers who are like super pretty, super perfect, because it's kudos to them, but it affects my mental health badly, whether I want it or not. It kind of puts me in a place where I'm constantly setting myself up for failure by comparing myself to them. So, and I know I'm happier, like, I mean, still like half an hour on Instagram feels like sometimes like, why did I do that? But I no longer feel like something is wrong or something is broken in the world, just by that half an hour of kind of doom scrolling. So that's what I kind of think is the way to go, to listen to yourself, to constantly look and evaluate what. So I think another, I don't know, I just feel like I'm just kind of going on now about the tips, but like two things that I kind of remembered as well were, one is I try and sign up for newsletters. It sounds very silly, but I read somewhere it's very psychological, and I don't want to use this word in front of like two psychologists if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like a newsletter is finite, unlike social media where you can keep kind of going on and on. A newsletter has like 5 articles for you to read. And that also helps me, like I feel I've caught up with everything when I've, like when I've read one. And another thing is like create another account if you really like photography, if you really like culture, if you really like poetry. Like when we first signed up for social media, we had no idea what we were doing. Just like with Corona, it's just information gradually passed on to us. So we signed up for things, and I think for most of us, it's been default. People we followed for a while, the patterns we had for a while. To kind of evaluate who you're following, maybe creating another account and just following like everything and everybody that makes you happy. Like
yeah,
whether it's
yeah.
culture or painting or poetry, or nothing is suddenly thrown at you, is what I think really helps. Again, if you're like me and you need to use Instagram for half a day, or you don't realize and you end up doing that. So that helps me.
Yeah, that I'm sure people, our viewers, will be taking these points away. And Ayushi, I have one question for you. In the comments, somebody has a question for you. They say, how do you deal with overconsumption as a journalist when you don't really have a choice? Sneha Kanchan asks.
Sneha, the thing with I think when it comes to journalism, again, you don't have a choice when it's a part of your job. And I am lucky, I have friends who work at like newspapers and are kind of like surrounded by very, very intense news positions. It's very important to draw lines between your work and like your life. If it is 9 to 6, then it is 9 to 6. I consume, and I know it's not easy to do at all. Overall, like I've been lucky to kind of be more on the culture side of things or travel side of things or kind of like the slow news side of things for a while. And it may not be the case for like I have friends who have to deal with a lot of like bad reporting. So not bad reporting, more like bad news reporting. So I think the way to do it is to draw lines, because you can't escape it. It's your job. And maybe I think newspapers and news organizations should hire psychologists, because I've been thinking about that lately as well. It's so imperative that the people who are giving you news are in the right state. So
Yes,
I do
yes.
think that's a more like a structural answer. But to have somebody to check in with constantly when it comes to news and what you're dealing with and what you're going through, that can help as well.
Yeah. I hope, Sneha, that answers your question.
Yeah, I
And
hope so.
yes, with that, I guess we've come to an end of the session. And once again, I'd like to thank both of you for such amazingly interesting insights I've had. I have so many takeaways from this session. Thank you, Ayushi, for sharing all your insights and your journey. And thank you, Ambika, for shedding light on so many interesting topics related to media and mental health, I think. And I hope it was helpful. It was a helpful and interactive and informative session for all our viewers. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ambika. Thank you,
Thank you
Ishwari.
all for
Had a great conversation
Thank
as
you,
well.
Ayushi. Thank you, Ishwari. And
Thank you.
thank you everyone for attending and
Yeah.
sparing some time for attending the webinar, that too on a weekend. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Also, one more reminder to our viewers: the evaluation forms will be emailed to you. A request to for all of you to please fill the forms and send us as soon as possible. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
everyone.
See you.
Bye. Thank you, Vaishnavi, for the feedback. Do fill the feedback form and send it.